Welcome back to Ozark Garage. We're back working on our KLX230. Last time we lowered it an inch using a Kuba link lowering link. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. I'll put a link in the upper right hand corner. And today, what are we installing?
A Rekluse clutch.
A Rekluse auto clutch, to be specific. So why are we installing a Rekluse auto clutch?
Because I'm spoiled.
Her current motorcycle is a Honda Trail 125, and it has a auto clutch in it, for lack of a better term. It has a centrifugal clutch, and she's become quite accustomed to not having to worry about stalling on the trail, and very easy to start. So we're going to install a Rekluse auto clutch in this KLX230. Anything else you want to add?
No.
Okay, so let's get to work. So the first thing we're going to install is this, and this is a manual idle adjuster from a company called High Volt Motorsports. So the fuel-injected KLX230s are well known to have kind of a variable idle. So it's a fuel-injected bike, so the ECU controls everything, and the idle goes high, low, all over the place. And even when it is stable, a lot of people complain that it is too high for a trail bike. So the Rekluse auto clutch, because it engages with engine speed, you want to have a consistent idle. And so this device here replaces the computer-controlled idle controller and lets you control it manually, so we can set our idle and have a consistent idle for the auto clutch. So to install a manual idle adjuster, first thing we have to do is remove the side panels and the seat so we can lift the gas tank a little bit up and out of the way and install it, because it's right down here on top of the throttle body. All right, so with the tank moved slightly out of the way, we have access to where we need to install the idle controller, which is this guy right here. So these are security Torx bits in here. So you need the T20 with the little hole in the middle to remove them. There's a pin down in that hole that has to align with the slot on this. Now the instructions didn't say whether to start this in the up position or the down position, but we'll start it in the middle, see what we get. So the factory sensor here, controller, you cannot disconnect, otherwise you'll get an engine code. So they say basically to wrap it in plastic and zip tie it here somewhere so it doesn't bounce around. Not really a fan of that solution, but I don't have anything better at this point, so we're gonna go ahead and do it. Took a couple shots of WD-40 in there, and then 2 zip ties sealing it up, and then a zip tie holding it to this frame bracket. So hopefully that stays. It doesn't cause any issues. All right, so I wasn't a huge fan of the plastic bag solution that High Volt Spares mentioned. So what I've done here is I've put a 5/8 silicone cap over it with a hose clamp, and it just comes in this set here from Harbor Freight, designed for painting or whatever. But the 5/8 cap slips over nicely, and hose clamp secured it, and then we'll zip tie this up out of the way and shouldn't have any problems with that. So here you can see how you have access to the manual idle adjuster through this frame hole, and we've got it set right now to have a nice kind of slow idle, and a nice slow idle should get us started for the Rekluse clutch. So the Rekluse clutch sits entirely inside the clutch housing, which is on the right side of the engine here. So this whole cover has to come off this side of the engine. To have better access and actually be able to get it out, as you can see, it's blocked by the brake lever here. She's taken out a couple cotter pins on the back to disconnect the rear master cylinder and brake lever, and we can get those out, and then the cover should come off with them. So the Rekluse instructions say to put the bike over on its left side, so that's exactly what we've done. That way you can take off this clutch housing without draining any oil or making a mess. So now we need to disconnect the clutch cable, and we can take this housing off. Rotate more. All right, so remove the clutch throw-up components, the pin, the bearing, And the plate, there we go, like that. Now remove the hub nut and washer and pull out the clutch. So that's the big one down in the middle. There we go. There we go. Now make sure the thrust washer doesn't stick to the back of it, like that. Thrust washer needs to go back on the main shaft, like that. There we go. Now get eye protection and slowly remove these. Slowly alternate. We need to separate the friction plates from the drive plates because we're reusing the friction plates. So take that off of there. I don't believe that. We need that off there. Yep, there you go.
So this is one that we're saving?
We're saving that, and we're not saving the metal pieces though in here. We're not reusing them anyway at this point. So it goes off to the side there.
So we're saving this one?
Take the metal plates off of it. See how there's a metal plate there too? And in fact, if you just want to alternate these, you can, but you're doing that. So, this is the new clutch hub from Rekluse. So here we're going to put a drive plate, then our EXP, it's been soaking in fresh motor oil for 5 minutes. Like that. And then we have another disc. Like that. And then another friction plate.
It goes down?
Doesn't matter. So the Rekluse comes with new springs that are substantially different because they have fewer coils than the factory ones. So we're going to start with 2 of them. So for the initial installation, you just put 2 springs and the hold down plate, and you're just snugging everything together enough to hold it while we put it in the bike. All right, now back at the bike, we can put the clutch assembly in the factory clutch basket. This is why we only installed 2 springs. All right, so getting the clutch reinstalled on the bike is a little bit of a challenge. You have to realign all of the clutch plates and the EXP plate in the basket on the bike, and the splines on the inner portion also have to be aligned. So that's accomplished by wiggling everything around, including the rear tire, to get those splines locked in with the transmission and gear. So now we can take off this top plate here with the bolts and put all the clutch springs in. Before we put all the clutch springs in, we're going to reinstall the clutch hub nut, so a little bit of blue Loctite, screw it down, and then torque it with the impact. So the original gasket's in pretty good shape, so we're just going to go ahead and reuse it. If it leaks, we'll order one and replace it. All the bolts are the same except for the 2 that hold the clutch cable are longer. More. There you go. right, so while she's reinstalling the brake lever, I'm going to check what's called the installed gap on the Rekluse clutch. So you want the cable tight against the perch, which it's currently not. So let's start there by getting rid of all play in the cable. All right, that's pretty tight against the perch. And then it says you need 3 to 5 more turns to create the installed gap. Let's go for 3, because I don't know that we're going to get 5. Well, there's 2.5, so that's pretty tight. So now we can move on to checking the free play gain when we get it fired up. Okay, so now that the clutch is reinstalled and I've set the installed gap, we need to check the free play gain. So what that means is when the clutch engages, it spins higher and presses its plates apart, which should create slack in the cable. And Rekluse includes this fancy rubber band for checking this until you learn to do it by hand. So we're going to go ahead and start the bike up. And you got to rev it half to 3/4 throttle, so between 5,000 and 7,000 RPM, and you should see it go. So you want to make sure the bike is in neutral, because the Rekluse clutch, if operating properly, makes it seem like it's do it. So we're watching for a free play gain. All right, so that's way too much free play gain. We're looking for 1/8 to 1/4. That's probably twice what we need. So the says the installed gap is too small, so we're going to increase it by tightening the clutch lever here some more. That's 4 full turns. Still not enough. I feel like we're going to run out of an adjustment screw in the housing here. 5 full turns. Yeah, we're still in the 1/2 inch range there. So we've run out of adjustment on the handlebar. So we're going to take some slack out down here to get our free play gain correct. All right, no free play gain. So let's loosen our cable now, and we'll have more thread engagement up here, which is not a bad thing. All right, so that looks like to be a pretty good 1/4 inch of free play gain. Now we can move to breaking in the clutch.
We're now going to start the break-in procedure. Rev cycles. Step 1, place the bike in neutral.
Neutral check.
With your hand off the clutch lever, rev the engine 10 times. Be sure to let it return to idle between each rev cycle.
Roger that.
That was 10 rev cycles in neutral. Step 3, with the engine still running, pull in the clutch lever. Then click the bike into first gear. Slowly release the clutch lever. The bike should stay in place or have a slight amount of forward creep. Step 4, with the bike idling in first gear, slowly apply the throttle to begin moving. Step 5, without using the clutch lever, accelerate moderately to approximately 5,000 RPM to fully lock up the clutch and come to a complete stop. Repeat 10 times. Next time is without using clutch lever in second gear.
So earlier in the video, when she said she was spoiled, what she meant by that is her current bike is a Honda Trail 125, which has what Honda calls a semi-automatic transmission. Now what that really means is it has a centrifugal clutch. You don't have to pull a clutch lever like this when shifting or when stopped at an idle. The bike won't stall, it's pretty easy to operate for a new rider. Transitioning to a larger bike with more power here, we installed the Rekluse clutch to kind of emulate that sort of. But the big problem with the Honda Trail 125 centrifugal clutch is its engagement point is sloppy, ambiguous, shall we say. It's not always easy to find the engagement point, and it slips a lot. It slips way too much for a trail bike, so anytime you're trying to bump up over a rock or an obstacle,
First gear. All right.
You wanna help me up and over?
Yeah, go.
the Rekluse, by all accounts, should be much, much better than that. We're going to do a quick test here of, kind of a common dirt bike drill and see, if we can do some of the normal dirt bike stuff with the Rekluse clutch. So we've got a slight hill here, and the goal is to be able to walk the dirt bike up the hill. So I'm going to have my feet on the ground here and just walk it up the hill, hold it, and then be able to roll it back using nothing but clutch engagement. So if you're doing this with a standard bike, if I was doing this with my DRZ, I'd be using the clutch and constant throttle to hold it on the hill and then bring it back down. But let's see if we can do this with the KLX and the Rekluse. All right. Once again, walking it up the hill. All right, we're up on an incline here. See if we can hold it. We sure can. More. We can go up. Give it more throttle. We can do it. And then to go back down the hill, see if we can just give it a little less throttle. Stop. Back down the hill. Yeah. Certainly can do this. And it definitely has a firmer engagement point than the Trail 125. So me as a 200-pound rider on the Trail 125 was problematic doing something like this because it just slips all day, then kicks in with a lot of RPM. Here, you can feel it engage. Give it a little bit and go up the hill or come back down as needed. So one of the other advantages of the Rekluse over the Honda Trail 125 system, aside from the very precise and very firm engagement point, is you still have an actual clutch lever here. The Honda Trail 125 has no clutch lever. So if you're going up a hill and you start to slip and you need to feather it a little bit for traction control, if you will, you can still do that on this KLX with the Rekluse clutch, but you cannot do that on the Honda Trail 125. So overall, with a little bit of practice, I think this will be a great bike for her. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below. I hope this video has been helpful for you if you've been considering a Rekluse clutch on any kind of bike. Otherwise, please like and subscribe for more, and we'll see you next time.